You know, people always talk about feeling safe in their own home, like it's just a given, like it comes with the keys and the mortgage, until the day someone with the wrong badge and too much authority decides your door is just another lock to turn. I never used to think about stuff like that. Not really. I was the guy who read privacy policies for fun, built firewalls for hospitals, thought safety was just a matter of good tech and stronger passwords. But when you've lived through what my family lived through, you stop assuming. You start noticing every shadow, every click of a lock, every neighbor who looks at your house just a little too long. It started with a key, simple, old school, the kind you keep on a big ring in an office somewhere, marked master. Linda Troz, HOA security chief, slid that key right into my son's door and turned it without a second thought. She didn't even knock. From inside, Ethan, my boy, 16, quieter than most but sharp as a razor, called out, "Dad, she's opening it." I didn't say she could. That note of fear in his voice. That's the kind of thing that stays with you. It took me 4 steps to reach the porch, one flat hand to slam that door shut so hard the trim groaned, and a single low warning. "You just entered a minor's bedroom without consent, Linda. And I hope your legal team is ready for what's coming." She tried to recover, like it was nothing, just business, citing community guidelines in that practiced voice that says she's done this before, maybe too many times. Thing is, she had no idea who she was talking to. I spent a decade managing hospital data privacy. I literally wrote the residential access policy for our county after a nurse's restraining order was violated. She had just broken 3 laws, and the camera feed in Ethan's room, lit by those blue LEDs she claimed were a violation, had already backed up the whole encounter to 3 encrypted servers. Linda's face was now streaming to the police, just in case she tried to spin it. Let me back up a sec, because you gotta know why I was so ready for her. My wife Leah, may she rest, made me promise as she lay in hospice that I'd find Ethan a safe place. A real one. After the night someone climbed through his bedroom window and shattered the peace of our old home. That's why we ended up in Granite Hollow, a neighborhood that marketed itself as neurodiverse friendly, with clear HOA rules, so-called fairness, and amenities for kids who needed a little extra space and understanding. What a joke that turned out to be. I rigged our house up like a digital fortress, motion sensors, encrypted live streams, cloud backups, you name it. That tower in Ethan's room wasn't just for gaming. It was his shield, and mine too. When Linda finally let go of the doorknob and tried to throw some technicality at me about lighting fixture declarations, I didn't raise my voice. I just stared her down until she left. Then I called Ethan on his phone. "She's on the feed," he whispered. "I got everything." I told him, "Good job, kiddo." What Linda didn't know was I'd already been digging through the HOA's sloppy, outdated security logs. I'd found 6 other privacy breaches in the past year, and I was in touch with someone at the Attorney General's office. We weren't just a scared father and son. We were a legal hazard this HOA wasn't ready for. And yet, nothing changed. No incident report, no apology, just a violation notice about Ethan's blue lights being a visual distraction. For who? We lived at the end of a cul-de-sac with no passing cars. Logic wasn't the point. Control was. I took Ethan for a walk the next day. He was hunched inside his hoodie, silent, pressing his phone to his chest like a shield, glancing at the windows as if expecting someone to burst in. Granite Hollow was supposed to be better than this. Instead, it had turned into a place where you never really knew who had a key to your house. That night, I reviewed the footage again. Linda, hand on the knob, timestamp clear as day. The next morning, I skipped work and marched into the HOA office. Physical, fancy, paid for with our dues. The young guy at the desk barely looked up, told me to file a digital complaint. I told him this wasn't a complaint, it was video evidence, and I wasn't just reporting it here. I was going to the authorities. That got his attention. As I left, I checked the resident forum I used to read. Gone, suspended, the domain now owned by the HOA's attorney's firm. They were burying complaints, shutting down voices. I dug deeper, bypassed my VPN, checked domain records, and sure enough, everything pointed back to Linda and her legal cronies. Twist is, I wasn't the only one. Ethan mentioned that Ms. Brantley from Unit 12 had a key. She'd opened the Johnson's gate when they were out. That family. Gone in a flash, no explanation, no forwarding address. I started to see the shape of something bigger than just blue LEDs and busybodies with too much power. At the next board meeting, the atmosphere was thick. Fluorescent lights, plastic chairs, bored faces. Linda, all smooth corporate steel, Diane Porter, the quiet secretary, and the usual crowd. When I stood up to report Linda's unlawful entry, quoting the California Penal Code and announcing the video evidence, you could feel the room tense up. Diane dropped her pen, visibly shaken. After the meeting, she found me outside, told me quietly that Linda was logging everything. Kids, families, problem households. She said she'd seen things in Linda's private reports that made her sick. Help me expose it, I asked, but she shook her head, scared, and hurried away. Later that night, Ethan's footage revealed something else. Diane had been in the hallway, watching Linda open my son's door, and said nothing. The next violation notice was taped to the door, perfectly straight, with language that threatened daily fines and even a property lien, just for refusing entry and keeping Ethan's lights on. They were escalating, trying to scare us out. But here's the thing about bullies. They always overplay their hand. I went straight to City Hall, handed over the evidence to Gina Alvarez in code enforcement, and pointed out that the HOA's bylaws didn't give them authority for interior inspections without an emergency or court order. Gina, sharp, caught on quick, promised to open a review. I kept digging. I stayed up late, tracking the HOA's network, tracing logins, pings, hidden data folders. That's when I found the Observer Stream, a secret log of device IDs, login timestamps, and camera feeds, flagged by child safety, but really just a database of kids' behavior, built under Linda's login, with Ethan's name flagged a dozen times. I captured everything, sent it to my contact at the Office of Consumer Protection, who immediately replied, "This is no longer HOA jurisdiction." I told Ethan, who asked, "Why us?" And I told him the truth. Because people like Linda don't stop at rules. They escalate until someone stops them. That night, I filed formal complaints at every level, city, state, federal. The twist? Diane Porter finally cracked. She agreed to meet me at the old garden trail. She brought a leather-bound notebook full of Linda's handwritten orders, dates, times, names, reasons for targeting certain families. She gave me a flash drive with emails, Linda's private instructions to surveil problem teens. Diane said, "I can't be afraid of my own neighborhood anymore." With real evidence in hand, I filed a full case with the Department of Justice, Office of Consumer Protection, even the Federal Trade Commission, flagging the violations under California privacy law and the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. I made sure every document was triply backed up, on drives, in the cloud, with trusted contacts. Linda tried to fight back with more violation notices, threats of fines, property liens, even a final warning flag in my yard. I baited her with a visible security camera and a mock admin login on Ethan's old tablet, which logged 3 access attempts. One from Linda's admin account, one generic, and one unknown, but geotagged at 3 a.m. in front of our house. They weren't just watching us. They were trying to catch us off guard. By now, other residents, Samir, Janelle, quietly approached me. Their kids had been targeted, too. We compared notes, built a pattern. I printed out the case number and taped it to my mailbox. Big, bold, a challenge. That evening, HOA patrol circled the block. Linda sat in the cart, eyes on my camera, but she didn't act. Yet, I knew she'd try something drastic. The emergency board meeting was called, public, packed, tense. Linda tried to make it about community order, digital misconduct. All that. I stood, binder in hand, and laid out every violation, every log, every targeted family. Diane Porter stood with me, confessed she'd kept records. Residents spoke up, voices shaking, about how their children were treated like threats. Linda tried to silence us, but the room had turned. Someone started clapping, and then the whole crowd joined. That was the moment, the power shift. Linda resigned within 48 hours, disappeared without a word. The city ombudsman confirmed multiple violations, audits began, investigations were launched. The new board, Diane at the helm, voted to repeal the master key policy, destroy all surveillance logs, and start rebuilding trust. I didn't want a seat on the board. I just wanted my son to feel safe. A few evenings later, Ethan and I sat on the porch, blue LEDs glowing softly in his window. The air felt lighter, like we could breathe again. He asked, "Does this mean they can't ever do it again?" I told him, "No one ever should have. And now, they won't get away with it." Granite Hollow was finally becoming the place it pretended to be. Listen, you might think this story is about security systems or legal policies, but really, it's about standing up when everyone else is too scared to. It's about knowing the difference between order and control, between safety and surveillance. It's about a father keeping his promise. They tried to scare us into silence, but all it took was one neighbor saying, "Enough," backed by evidence, truth, and a community tired of living in fear. So, if you've ever faced down an HOA, or you know the sting of injustice where you live, share your story below. Tell me where you're watching from. Let's talk about what's right, what's fair, and what you would have done if someone tried to cross your line. Because the only way to fix a broken system is to expose it, one brave voice at a time. Your voice matters, and you never know when it might be the one to finally turn the key.